Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to talk about the Thrunite TW10. We did an unboxing of this, had a little bit of time with it. I'm going to give you my thoughts. Let's talk about it. Alright, so full disclosure, here we go. Thrunite did send me this flashlight to look at, review, and do stuff like this, okay? I did not pay for this. They sent it to me. So if you need to take what I say with a grain of salt, go ahead and do that, but I'm going to give you my honest opinion on this guy, okay? So, what is this guy specifically? What we're talking about is this little fella right here. This is a small one battery, one cell, I guess you would call it, pistol light. All right, my understanding of it, this is intended for pistols, okay? It has a mounting, like mini mounts out there for flashlights. Underneath here where it has like it has a tension screw on one side, and then that kind of opens up a gate, as it were, and it kind of clamps onto the rail of said firearm. That doesn't even make any sense, but it clamps on the rail of a firearm. You can see right here, it's got this little insert piece that says GL. I'm assuming that's for Glock. It also comes with a second little piece, if I can get it out, that is for a standard 1913 rail. So it's made to fit a little bit better into a 1913 rail. Right there says 1913. That's my understanding of it, how it's supposed to work. In my experience so far, this mounts perfectly fine up with Glocks. It mounts perfectly fine up with 1913 rails. So I didn't try out the other one. I didn't put it on because I didn't really see the need to necessarily. This is not, doesn't have a laser on it, so it's not an aiming device, and it locked up solid enough for me, so I didn't want to change it out. So let's get into a couple little specs. I know it's not really what our channel is about, a bunch of specs and details and things, but let's get into a couple little specs, and then I'll just kind of go over some information about it, okay? Basically, what they say from the website, or from the sheet right here, I'll put it up here, and if you need to screenshot that, you can screenshot that. But basically, and you can look up this information too, so I'm not going to read off everything, but their advertised, I'm trying to find it, their advertised lumens is 900 lumens, and then it diminishes down to what they say is 427. Okay, so 900 lumens down to 427 with a runtime of around 130 minutes, so a little over 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's the basic specs on this thing, okay? The runtime and the lumens and everything. The battery on here, is not, it is not a CR123A battery. I'm gonna read this and make sure I get it right. This is an, where did it go? An 18350 3.4 volt battery. Okay, this is a Thrunite battery. I used Thrunite batteries before I ever used Thrunite flashlights. I remember when Thrunite came out a while back ago. There were a bunch of people talking about them and stuff. I like the batteries, the 18650s. I like those batteries. But it comes with this battery, and it is not a CR123A, right? So you cannot interchange batteries. I thought it was, and then I tried to swap out a CR123 into here. Doesn't work, okay? At least it's not working how I'm seeing it. So the benefit to this is that you could buy more of these batteries. All right, there's some other lights that we'll talk about here in just a second. We'll do a little comparison. But some other flashlights, they use proprietary batteries where either it's just a proprietary battery. You can't do anything about it. And it's stuck inside the flashlight. So the flashlight has to be charged in its whole entirety, right? There's pros and cons to that. This guy has a charging cable that comes with it. So this is a USB Type-C that plugs into the back. It's an interesting spot because you're gonna have to take this off of your handgun. But in the back of here, if I can get it open, there we go, has this little rubbery gate, whatever, this little cover, and you'll plug in your light. You plug this USB into whatever USB thing, and it'll charge your battery up for you, okay? So it is chargeable that way, but if you're going to use this kind of light, it would behoove you probably to have one or two, that's really bright, to have one or two extra batteries sitting around to where if you didn't have the ability, let's say you're taking a class or you're doing something, if you were using this in a real situation, you probably want an extra battery just in case something happens, Murphy's Law kicks in, and you need an extra battery right now. You don't have to charge it up, okay? Just keep that in mind. But you do have the ability to do that. Some lights do not have the ability to do that, okay? We're gonna talk about the runtime here. I did not put it out. I tested this the same way I tested a lot of my other flashlights. The same way. I don't remember if I put it in water or not, but I put it down, I put it in a box, basically put a GoPro over the top of it, put a timer right next to it, and let it run. And that thing ran and ran and ran. That thing ran forever. And the good thing is it ran forever. It kept going and going and going. The bad thing is it kept getting lower and lower and lower, and I didn't know where to cut it off. The lumens was way past any usable lumens. It was like nothing. It was just a little glow of an ember left at the very end. It didn't just hard shut off. There are some lights out there that after they've reached their peak performance, right, they dim down, they do hard steps down, some will slowly go down, and then they're just out, right? This guy slowly went down, and then he just kept going, right? He just kept going way, like, he just kept going. I don't remember if it was like 12 hours or what it was, but it took a long time for that battery to completely just drain out. And it's kind of, that's why I didn't put the exact numbers, because it's kind of impractical to say, yeah, you got a 6-hour runtime, because at the end you got like 2 lumens. It's not really what it is. So I would go more off what they say. I trust kind of what they're saying here, about 2 hours of good, solid runtime. And then you're going to need to charge it up. And at that point, I have no way to test the lumens of like what is 900 and what is 427. Or at the end, is it really 200 lumens? I don't know. But what I can tell you is it's pretty bright. And let's talk about that real quick, right? The brightness. It's got buttons on the side, right? These are just little rubbery buttons, right? They're not switches or anything, but they're just buttons. You can see it sticking out the top here and at the bottom here. They're the same thing on both sides. There's nothing special. You can hold the button momentary, you can click the button and it stays on, right? From what I'm seeing in here and from what my experience is, a good thing is this does not have a bunch of features. I don't see it having a bunch of strobe. It doesn't have a bunch of stuff like you push the button and it turns on, or you hold the button and let go and it's momentary. That's it. It doesn't give you a bunch of modes and different things that, and ultimately, in my opinion, a lot of times those things fail or it just gets confusing and stuff. No, it's either on or it's off, like constantly or momentarily. It's pretty simple, and I do like the simplicity of things, right? Simplicity of things makes things work better, in my opinion. Or and I don't know if they work better, but they work more, what's the term, more reliably, right? Anyway, that's my opinion on that. All right, so that's the buttons and switches and everything. Pretty simple. Again, I really like the simplicity of things. Simplicity breeds reliability, in my opinion, to a degree. Take that with a grain of salt if you need to. That's basically all the specs that I really wanted to read off here. IPC or IPX8, whatever, 2-meter testing. I don't know exactly what all that means. My understanding of what that means, you can get it wet, you can put it underwater for a little bit. You're just probably not going to want to go scuba diving with it. I don't have a place to go scuba diving with it, or I probably would just to see, right? You can lock it out, which is something that I learned I needed to do. By just unscrewing the bezel a little bit, you lock it out, okay? That's good to know. It doesn't have a hard click. It's not like you click it into a lockout position. You just unscrew the bezel a little bit. That's something a lot of flashlights do. It's just worth noting that, because if you're going to transport this for a while, which I have done, and it accidentally turns on, then you get to where you're going and your lights all burn out. Could be all burn out. In this case, it's probably just going to have 5 lumens because it's not really going to burn out. It's just going to keep going. Anyway, let's mount this up. I'll show you what this looks like on a Glock. All right, or technically not a Glock, an MR920. Technically, it's a Glock. Well, I kind of did it pretty quick. Like I said, you unscrew this piece right here, right? You unscrew that. That gives this thing the ability to push up and open. And then you're going to fit that into the little groove on your accessory rail, and then you just tighten everything down. All right, this is going to automatically get us into talking about some cons. All right, some of the main cons that I see with this are twofold. I don't know any holsters for this right now, so on a pistol like this, I'm not really going to be able to use it much because I have no way to carry it. Right? It seems like it would be pretty simple to make a holster. You just have grooves around your buttons so you don't hit your buttons, and you can easily make your retention nub or whatever right here on your little takedown pin, or not takedown, but whatever that thing is, your tension screw, right? You could easily get some tension that way, right? And on the edges back here, you could easily get some grooves back here that would give you some retention. So if I made holsters and stuff like that, it wouldn't be that hard to do, I don't think. I've never made holsters. I'm talking like I haven't. But I could see how this would be an easy enough light to make holsters for it, but I haven't seen one out there. That's one con. Second con is the buttons. All right, we kind of talked about it before. The simplicity of it is good, but the placement, right? If you put your hands on here, some people teach, you know, your thumbs way up, some way forward, however it is. Whatever way it is, you got to go all the way down here, and then you got to push in on the light. I don't particularly like buttons that make you have to push in on the light. If you're pushing down and flipping a switch, right, or you're pushing in just straight forward, that's a more fluid movement that doesn't interrupt your grip, right? Meaning, if I'm pointing the gun somewhere and I go to push the button, right? There's nobody over there, so don't worry about it. So if I'm pointing it this way and I go to push the button, it's easy for me to have to push the button to the side. And that's over-exaggerated, or it's exaggerated, whatever. But to push the button, you're pushing your grip over a little bit. Whereas if you're just pushing straight down, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit less obstructing of your grip, as it were, okay? Those are two main cons. Other than that, the light that comes out of this pistol has a very wide beam, right? It's very much reminiscent. I do have it up. I have a different head on it, but it very much reminiscent. That's a different head on it of the Streamlight or Surefire Tactician, right? Where that's a handgun fighting light basically, and it's the same kind of thing where it does not have a really good hotspot. It just throws a whole bunch of light. So for this guy, in my understanding, his application is to be on a pistol, right? This is a relatively close engagement tool, and to be able to turn this thing on and just blast a whole bunch of bright, nice white light, that bluish white, good, not a yellowy light, but a good bluish light. I like that. It throws a lot of light, which is good for what that purpose is. It's not a hot spot that you're going to put on a rifle, you know, to try to shoot something at a couple hundred yards. It's not really what it's for. But to have a whole bunch of light, just floodlight, that's what it is, floodlight. It's good for that, okay? Now, on a pistol, like I just said a second ago, I'm not a big fan of how the buttons line up and everything, and I don't have a holster for it yet. But what I will tell you could be a good roll for this is either in a PCC, okay, or I kind of talk smack about it being on a rifle, but it could go on a rifle like this, or technically it's a pistol. But if you move your front sight back a little bit, okay, and then you mount your light up front. This is where I guess you could use those Picatinny rails or the Picatinny adapter thingy, but really this locks on here just fine. This is not really a super bad setup. The way that it would work, you would still be able to use your iron sights. If you look through there, you would still be able to use your irons. You don't even see the light. But for a close engagement, whether it be for a home defense kind of gun, I'm talking about the use of the light, right? This kind of a throw, you can easily hit that button. It's where it needs to be, right? It's an easy, natural point for it, and like I said, it throws a lot of light. So for close things, if you're going to be like clearing a room or something, to blast a whole bunch of light and to clear everything out, this is not a bad application for this kind of light. Say it that way. It's not a bad application for this kind of light to have a lot of light. For this, in this case, you don't get a bunch of shadow because you can push the light way forward on the gun. So there's just a smidge of a shadow down here where you have, you know, your muzzle shadow or whatever it's called. There's just a little bit of that. But the way that this blasts so much light, it is a good thing, in my opinion, for this kind of setup, for a close engagement kind of thing. All right. So durability and all that kind of stuff, time's gonna tell. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna put it on guns. I'm gonna keep, you know, using and abusing it until it either just, you know, gives out or it just passes the test of time and it keeps running and keeps working. The cons of this make me not really want to put it on a pistol, like we've said before. I think for me, it would have a good place on either a PCC or a gun like this, right, to where it's made for close engagements, but it doesn't have to have a holster, and those side buttons, not switches, those side buttons are not as big of a deal. Okay, so that's where this thing would be good. For about $50, that's kind of what you pay for it. I think, give or take, depending on deals, sales, I have no idea. But you can get it on Amazon for about 50 bucks. And for what you get for 50 bucks, a 900 lumen light, that's not a bad deal. That's really not a bad deal. The fact that you can have it plugged in, it's not a magnetic attachment like some lights have. It's not magnetic at all. But the fact that you can just have it plugged in and charge it, and maybe charge it once a week or once a month. I bet you can get away with it once a month if you're not using the light. That's not a bad deal. Okay, that's really not a bad deal. All right, so real quick, we're gonna do a comparison. We got a couple different lights here. We have the Thrunite, right? 900 lumens. We have the Surefire X300. This is like $1,000 lumens. The Streamlight TLR, what is it? TLR1 HL. I think it's another about 1,000 lumens. Did I say $1,000 lumens? No, it's 1,000 lumens, I think. This another Streamlight TLR7A. This is 500 lumens. And then the Balder S from Olight, right? This is 800 lumens, I do believe, with the laser. Size-wise, if you stack all these guys up, actually, no, you can see right there. Size-wise, if we stack these guys up, put them on their bezels, we'll go from smallest to largest. There, you actually can see that. Good. I thought I was gonna have to go to an overhead thing, and I don't have an overhead thing. So smallest to largest, you have these two, which are pretty much the same, right? The Balder and the Streamlight, they're pretty much the same. TLR7A. If you take off the little switches on the Streamlight, right, on the TLR1, they're about the same length, right? The Surefire is definitely a good, whatever that is, ½ inch, whatever, longer, larger. Now it is 1,000 lumens, and it does take 2 batteries versus the 1 battery. But that's, you know, there's some give and take, and there's some different things about that. But anyway, I'm going to put up some different shots that I took outside. I mentioned earlier that we have nights now, right? So we got some darkness. And the distance that I'm going to be shooting this stuff at is about 18 yards from where I was standing to the tree line, basically, or tree line, the fence, whatever, and there's a fence and then there's the trees. And I'll show you what these things look like. It's hard to tell when it comes over camera because the camera automatically focuses and it just does different things, but I'll throw all that up there for you. Surefire X300. Streamlight TLR1. Olight Balder S. Streamlight TLR7A sub. Thrunite TW10. All right, so it just goes to show you, goes to reiterate kind of what I said before. The Thrunite definitely has a very wide beam. It just throws a bunch of light, which for what it is purposed for, I think that's a good thing, right? The Surefire has a much tighter beam. It is a little bit brighter. The Streamlight, it still has a little bit of a beam in the middle, but it does throw a bunch of light, and it seems to be more yellow. If you ask me, it seems to be more yellow, whereas the Thrunite is more of a whitish blue light, right? These little guys, the same kind of thing. Streamlight's a little bit of a whitish light, not whitish, a yellowy light. And it's only 500 lumens, so it's not really comparing apples to apples. It's, you know, apples to something else. I don't know. And then the Olight, it is a little bit more of a bluish light, and it's close in lumens. But I think the Thrunite has just a bit of a wider beam to it, right? Whereas the Olight is a little bit more concentrated, just a little bit. All right, guys, I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found that interesting. I think it has a place in the PCC world. I think it does. It doesn't have, as far as I know, it has no ability to run tape switches or anything like that. But in a way, again, it keeps the simplicity there. right? There's no big switches and things and whatnot to go wrong. So in all honesty, I could see this thing lasting for a good while because there's less stuff to break off. There's not these little flippers and things you're accidentally going to hit or break, right? It's just internals. How well is this thing going to last over time with the shock? Maybe putting it on a shotgun, maybe putting it on a real rifle. If it can handle that kind of shock, well, this could be a very undersold, or what's the term? A little unknown light, right? For about $50, you could do a lot with this, right? You could do a lot worse than this. That is definitely for sure. And honestly, I think it's the cheapest one out of all the lights that are here, and it performs pretty well, if you ask me. All right, guys, if you have any questions about the TLR, it's not a TLR, make sure I say it right, the TW10, right? If you got any questions about this guy, let me know. I'm going to continue using it. It's not going on any particular work gun right now. I'm just going to continue testing it. I'll put it on a bunch of different stuff, and I'll update y'all as time goes on. But if you have questions about it, let me know, and I'll get you the best information, answers that I can. All right? Y'all be good to be safe. Thank you, Thrunite, for sending it, and hopefully we'll catch y'all in the next video.